It's hard to explain to anyone why I feel so exhausted all the time. It's not the kind of tired you get from staying up too late or running around all day. It's the kind of tired that sticks to your bones, settles in your chest, and hangs around like a shadow. You can't escape it. It's the weight of a world that's constantly moving, but I can't keep up. Every day feels like I'm running a race I never signed up for. The world moves, the bills pile up, and I keep chasing after something that feels more and more out of reach. There's always something new I need to pay for, an unexpected medical bill, the rising cost of groceries, the car repair I didn't plan for. I get a paycheck, and before I even see it, it's already spent on things I have to pay. The rent, the electricity, the phone bill. It's like the universe is just a little bit faster than me, and I'm constantly scrambling to catch up. I feel like I'm stuck in a cycle that keeps getting tighter. I work full-time, but it's never enough. Even with a decent job, I'm still struggling. I remember when I first started out in the workforce, I thought that as long as I worked hard, things would get easier. But that was years ago. Now, it feels like I'm just trying to tread water, and the waves keep getting bigger. I'm 24, and I've already had to make choices that people my age shouldn't have to think about. When my car broke down last month, I thought about not fixing it at all. I have friends who take public transportation, who make it work with less, but I can't imagine doing that. Not here. Not with the city the way it is, the commutes as long as they are. So I borrowed some money from my parents, even though I hate doing that. I hate admitting that I can't do it on my own. But it's either that or fall behind. And falling behind is not an option. I know that, deep down, no matter how tired I get, I have to keep moving forward. Because the alternative scares me. There are days when I just want to sit in silence and let the weight of it all crush me. Days when I want to scream because I've worked hard, and yet it feels like I'm getting nowhere. There's this nagging feeling in my stomach that maybe I've missed something, some crucial piece of advice or financial wisdom that would change everything. I hear people talk about budgeting, about smart spending, but it doesn't feel like enough. There's no magic formula for how to make rent stretch a little further or how to cover the gap when my paycheck doesn't quite meet the bills. I don't even know what it's like to save anymore. I used to have dreams, small ones, at least. I used to imagine getting a place of my own, not in some tiny apartment with barely enough room for a couch, but a real home. Somewhere cozy, somewhere I could feel safe, where I wouldn't worry about the next rent increase. I used to dream of traveling, of seeing places I only read about online. And now, every time I think about those things, they feel so far out of reach, like they belong to someone else, not me. Someone with a safety net. Someone with a steady income and fewer obligations. I don't know how I got here. Maybe it's the city. Maybe it's just the way things are right now. I try not to blame anyone. I know that this is a bigger problem than just me. The economy is out of control, and prices keep going up. My paycheck doesn't keep up with inflation, and no matter how many hours I work, I can't make ends meet the way I'm supposed to. And yet, I'm supposed to feel lucky, right? To have a job, to have a roof over my head. Everyone tells me that I should be grateful for what I have, and I am, but it's hard to feel grateful when it feels like I'm always just barely scraping by. I think about how it used to be. I remember when I was younger, and my biggest worry was what I was going to wear to school or whether I'd pass my next test. Now, it's bills, and it's figuring out how I'm going to pay for things that I used to take for granted, groceries, gas, medical expenses. There are days when I feel like I've aged 10 years in one. My shoulders are tight all the time from stress, my sleep is restless, and I find myself staring at the ceiling in the middle of the night, thinking about what I have to do tomorrow. I don't even have the energy to get excited about anything anymore. How do you get excited when you're just surviving? I used to dream about going back to school, getting a degree that would open doors for me, but that feels impossible now. I can barely keep up with what's already on my plate. How could I add anything else? The idea of going back into debt for a degree that might not even guarantee me a better job, well, that's terrifying. And every time I try to make a plan for the future, there's this voice that reminds me that the world is unpredictable. It's hard to make big decisions when everything feels so fragile. I've learned how to cope, but it doesn't always feel like coping. Some days, I avoid looking at my bank account because I don't want to face the reality of how little I have. I've gotten used to saying no to things I really want, trips, experiences, new clothes, because I can't afford them. Sometimes, I'll go to the grocery store and find myself grabbing the cheapest, most basic items, hoping it'll be enough to stretch through the week. Other times, I'll skip meals altogether because I know it'll make the numbers balance out. It's just what I have to do. I try to tell myself that I'm strong, that I'm making it work, but there's always this gnawing feeling in my gut that I'm losing something important. Maybe it's my sense of hope. I don't think people realize how much this kind of pressure wears on you. It's not just about the money. It's about the fear of running out of options. The fear that no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you try to keep up, you'll always be behind. It eats away at you slowly, like a constant hum in the background. It takes away your confidence, your joy, and sometimes your belief in your own potential. I try to remind myself that this isn't forever, that things will get better, but it's hard when every day feels like a struggle. Sometimes, I wonder what it would be like to not have to think about money every minute of the day. To not have to make these impossible choices. To know that I could just breathe and live without the fear of falling behind. I guess that's all I really want, just a chance to breathe. To feel like I'm not drowning. To have the space to dream again, without feeling like every dream has a price tag I can't afford. I'm not asking for much. Just the chance to live a life where I don't have to wonder if I'm going to make it to the next paycheck. But for now, I keep going. I don't know what else to do. There's no real choice but to keep moving forward, even if it feels like I'm running in place. Maybe, one day, things will be different. Maybe one day, the weight of it will lighten. Until then, I'll keep fighting, because that's all I can do. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I wake up to the same feeling each day. It's not the kind of feeling where I dread getting out of bed because I have an awful day ahead. It's more subtle, like the quiet hum of a car engine that never stops, even when the car's parked. That hum is in my head every morning as I check my bank balance before even brushing my teeth. Most days, it's a little reminder of the pressure that sits like a weight on my chest, but sometimes, it feels like it's almost suffocating. I'm 26, still trying to figure it all out. At least that's what everyone says when they see me struggling. You've got plenty of time, they tell me. You're young. But time isn't the luxury I wish I had. Time doesn't pay rent, and it sure as hell doesn't make groceries any cheaper. The world around me feels like it's moving faster than I can keep up, and everything is just so expensive. Rent, food, gas, insurance, student loans, all those things grow exponentially while my paycheck stays the same. I don't have the luxury of ignoring the way everything is spiraling. I'm constantly doing mental gymnastics, calculating whether I can afford to go to the grocery store or if I'll be forced to scrounge around for something leftover from last week. There's this awful moment when I look at my fridge, which is usually about half empty, and I try to figure out how long I can survive on what little I have left. It's embarrassing, and it's lonely, even though I know I'm not the only one struggling. Last night, I had a conversation with my roommate about how our rent's going up again. Every year it seems like the rent increases by a few $100s, and every year we say, we're just going to have to suck it up. It's not that we don't want to try to get ahead, but everything is just a little out of reach. I've been working full-time since I graduated, but it doesn't feel like that hard work is ever enough to make real progress. I make decent money for my age, but it never seems to be enough to cover the things I need without having to cut back somewhere else. I want to have a life, go out with friends, take trips, go to concerts, but those things feel like far-off dreams. Fun and leisure have become distant memories of a life I had before everything started getting tighter. I've had to let go of so many dreams, too. I used to want to travel, see the world. I pictured myself in a cute apartment, not constantly fighting with bills and making endless compromises. There was a time when I thought I'd move to a new city, start fresh, maybe find a career that didn't make me feel like I was just treading water. But now, all I can think about is paying off the debt and getting through each month without having to skip a bill. The thought of leaving my current job for something more fulfilling feels like a fantasy. Who has the luxury of quitting their job to pursue something that might pay off eventually when the bills pile up faster than you can blink? I can't even imagine saving for a vacation, let alone for the future. Retirement seems like this abstract thing that's so far away that I can't wrap my head around it. I'm just trying to make it to next week. Some days I wonder if I'll ever get ahead. Every time I think I have a handle on things, some new expense hits me like a ton of bricks. A medical bill, car repairs, something breaking down in the apartment that needs fixing. It's not just the money, though. The constant strain starts to wear on you, mentally and emotionally. Some days I'm just exhausted from worrying. I've noticed myself becoming more irritable, snapping at people for things that don't really matter. It's not that I'm angry at them, I'm angry at the situation. I'm angry that no matter how much effort I put in, I can't break free from this cycle. The financial pressure feels like a beast that's always lurking, ready to strike at the smallest misstep. And the worst part is that, no matter how much I struggle, no one really seems to understand. I mean, they try to, but they just don't. It's going to get better, they say. You're young, you'll figure it out. They don't know that I've been figuring it out for years, and I'm still no closer to a solution. It's like being on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm still stuck in place. I tell myself that this is temporary, that eventually I'll break free. But the future feels so uncertain. I want to believe that one day, I'll have the freedom to make choices without worrying if I can afford them, but some days it feels like that's just a fantasy. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to get a promotion or find a better paying job, but there's always a voice in the back of my mind asking, will it even be enough? Even if I make more, will the world just keep getting more expensive? Sometimes I think about what I could have done differently. Maybe I should have taken that job offer that didn't feel right, or maybe I should have moved to a cheaper city. But then I think about the way it feels to constantly be on the edge of not having enough, and I wonder if it's really about the choices I made or just the system I'm stuck in. The system that keeps pulling me under even as I try to stay afloat. I cope by holding on to small victories. I've learned to find joy in the little things, getting a good deal on groceries, finding free events to go to, and celebrating the rare occasions when I can buy something I really want without worrying if it'll throw off my budget. It's not much, but it's something. I also keep a mental list of things I'll do when I finally have the freedom to live without constant pressure, when I can travel to those places I've always dreamed of seeing, when I can buy the things I need without checking the price tag, when I can relax knowing that my financial future isn't a ticking clock. I try to stay hopeful, to believe that I can pull myself out of this. I'm determined to make things better for myself, even if I'm not sure how or when that will happen. The weight of it all is overwhelming at times, but I've learned to keep moving. I don't know if there's an end to this struggle or if it'll always be a part of my life, but I know that I can't give up. I can't let the pressure crush me. So I hold on, day by day, paycheck by paycheck, and try to remember that this moment doesn't define my future. But damn, some days, it feels like it does. I woke up this morning with a dull headache. It's like a constant companion these days. The kind that sits behind your eyes, pressing down on your skull, reminding you that there's always something you should be worrying about. It's never the same kind of stress, it's not one big thing, but 1,000 little things. And they don't stop. Ever. The first thought that hit me today, as I lay there staring at the ceiling, was money. What else? I can't remember the last time I woke up without it sitting at the forefront of my mind, looming over everything else. I rolled over, grabbed my phone, and checked my bank balance, $63.02. The number didn't shock me anymore. I knew it was low. It's always low. It's been low for months. There's this underlying pressure to keep moving, to keep going, to not let things fall apart. But there are days when it feels impossible to keep up. I don't even have the luxury of feeling like I'm treading water. It's more like sinking slowly, knowing I'm going down but not knowing how to stop it. I made coffee from the half-empty jar of ground beans I've had for weeks. The coffee's weak, but it's fine. It's not about the taste anymore. It's about the routine, the motion of going through the steps that make me feel like I'm doing something, anything, to move forward. I've stopped buying fresh coffee for a while now. Too expensive. Instead, I've been making do with whatever's left, and sometimes I even stretch it out by adding a bit of water to the grounds before brewing. It's the little things that add up, the things I never thought would matter. I used to love buying a new book every month, treating myself to a coffee shop visit every now and then. But now, those luxuries feel like distant dreams, dreams I can't even remember the last time I indulged in. Instead, I get by with what's in my cabinets. Instant ramen. Canned beans. Frozen vegetables. The essentials. Sometimes, I catch myself daydreaming about life before all this. When I could walk into a store and not immediately calculate whether the purchase would stretch my budget too thin. I used to be a person who thought about fun like it was a given, like it was something everyone could enjoy. Now it feels like a privilege, a luxury for people with disposable incomes. I've been working the same entry-level job for almost 2 years now, and I keep hoping that someday I'll get a raise, or at least a promotion, that will make a difference. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that even if I get a small bump in pay, it won't solve the problem. Because the cost of everything else is climbing faster than my paycheck. Rent went up again. Utility bills climbed. I'm still paying off the same student loan debt I've been chipping away at for years, and even that seems like it'll never end. Some nights, I sit up late, scrolling through job listings, hoping to find something that might pay better, something that might actually get me ahead. But there's always a catch. I don't have the experience they want, or the qualifications, or the time to even apply for more opportunities because my current job demands every minute of my day. And those listings, the ones that say competitive salary or great benefits, they feel like cruel jokes. If those jobs even exist, they're locked behind some wall I'll never get past. I hate that I feel like I'm failing, like I'm stuck. At 24, I feel like I should be able to do more than just survive. Everyone around me seems to be moving forward, posting pictures of new apartments, weekend getaways, new clothes, new cars. It makes me feel like I'm falling behind in a race that I didn't even sign up for. But the truth is, I don't even have the energy to compete. The weight of constant financial pressure takes it out of you in ways that are hard to explain. I can't tell anyone this. Not really. It's not that I don't trust my friends or family. I love them, and I know they would understand. But I can't burden them with it. What could they possibly do? We're all in the same boat, just trying to keep our heads above water. I don't want to be the one who's always complaining about money, the one who's always bringing the mood down. So I smile, and I say I'm fine. I don't talk about how I spent 3 days last week living on canned soup and crackers, or how I had to skip a friend's birthday party because I just couldn't justify the expense. The worst part is that I don't know when it's going to get better. I used to have these vague ideas about the future, about things I'd do when I finally got my life together. But now, those ideas feel like luxuries I can't even entertain. I've had to give up things I used to care about. I had dreams of traveling, of seeing the world outside my small town. I wanted to take a writing class, maybe even try to get published one day. I wanted to get a dog, just a small one, something to keep me company, to make me feel like I had a purpose beyond work. But those things are so far out of reach, they feel like they belong to someone else's life. I try to tell myself that it's temporary, that I'll figure it out, that things will eventually change. But deep down, I know the truth, this might be my life for a long time. The constant juggling. The looking at the same paycheck and wondering how it's supposed to cover all the things I need. The tiny victories, like being able to buy a $5 lunch without having to worry about whether I'll be short by the end of the week. The crushing anxiety when unexpected bills show up, and I have to scrape together what I can just to keep the lights on. There's no real escape. No magic solution. Just the daily grind, trying to keep up, trying to get by. I've had to learn how to cope with it, how to manage the emotional exhaustion. Some days, I take deep breaths and remind myself that I'm doing the best I can. Other days, I just sit quietly in my room, staring at the walls, feeling overwhelmed by everything I put on hold. I don't know how to keep dreaming, how to keep hoping, when it feels like I'm running on empty. But I know I can't give up. Because giving up means staying stuck in the same place, and that's scarier than anything else. So I keep going, one step at a time, waiting for the day when things will finally shift. Maybe they won't be perfect, but at least I'll have more room to breathe. Until then, I'll keep making coffee from old beans and counting the days until the next paycheck. I'm 26, and most days I feel like I'm already losing a race I never agreed to run. I didn't grow up with much, but I didn't grow up with nothing either. My mom worked 2 jobs, my dad floated in and out of the picture, and we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment that always smelled a little like old carpet and lemon-scented cleaner. I used to believe that if I studied hard, stayed out of trouble, and followed the rules, I'd get to a better place. You know, graduate college, get a decent job, start building something real. But now, most mornings I wake up with a pit in my stomach, wondering how I'll stretch the few $100s in my account across rent, groceries, my car payment, and this creeping anxiety that never goes away. I work full-time as an administrative assistant. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. $19.75 an hour, no benefits. That comes out to just over $800 a month after taxes. My rent is $1 Add in utilities, insurance, groceries, gas, and minimum payments on my student loans and credit cards, there's barely anything left. Some months I don't even make it to the end before overdrafting. It's like trying to fill a leaking bucket with a teaspoon. No matter how hard I try, I'm always behind. Everything feels expensive now. Eggs. A tube of toothpaste. A goddamn onion. And every time I get one of those "your balance is low" alerts from my bank, I get this tightness in my chest, like I can't breathe properly. It's not just about money. It's about what it represents: security, choices, dignity. Without it, you feel small, exposed. I can't even remember the last time I relaxed without guilt crawling up my spine. I haven't gone to the dentist in 2 years. I cracked a molar on a popcorn kernel last fall, and I just chew on the other side now. My car needs new tires, but I keep pushing it off. I tell myself I'll get to it next month, but next month never seems to come. I've gotten really good at pretending things are fine, at joking about being broke, at declining invitations without making it awkward. Rain check. I say, or next payday, I promise. But the truth is, I often sit at home alone, eating rice and canned beans, scrolling through my feed and watching other people live the life I thought I was working toward. It's not that I'm lazy. I work hard. I stay late when asked. I take on extra tasks. I've looked for higher-paying jobs, sent out resumes, gone to interviews. Half the time I don't even hear back. When I do, they're either looking for someone with 10 years of experience for an entry-level role or they want to pay even less than I make now. I tried freelancing on the side, writing, editing, whatever gigs I could get, but it was inconsistent and exhausting. I was running on 4 hours of sleep and burning out fast. I remember once, when I was in high school, my English teacher asked us to write a letter to our future selves. I dug mine up last month when I visited my mom. It said things like, "I hope you have your own apartment in the city, and maybe you're writing books now." I laughed out loud reading it. Not a bitter laugh, but a tired one. That kind of hopeful naivety stings a little now. I never stopped dreaming, I just had to fold those dreams up and put them away for a while. I wanted to travel. I wanted to get a dog. I wanted to go back to school and maybe get my master's. I still want those things. But I can't afford to think that far ahead anymore. I live in survival mode. I budget by the week, sometimes by the day. I lie awake at night calculating how much I can spend tomorrow. If an emergency happened, a real one, like a medical issue or a layoff, I don't know what I'd do. The thought terrifies me. Emotionally, it's isolating. People don't really talk about how money shapes your mental health. How it chips away at your self-worth. You start to feel defective, like you did something wrong. Like everyone else got a handbook you missed. And the worst part is, no matter how much you try to explain, some people just don't get it. They say things like, just save more, or cut back on luxuries, as if I'm blowing my money on designer shoes and brunches. I've never had a luxury. I cut everything already: subscriptions, streaming services, name brand anything. I haven't bought new clothes in over a year. My coat has a rip in the sleeve. I just sew it shut again when the thread comes loose. I cope the best I can. I journal sometimes. I take long walks when the weather allows, just to get out of the apartment and clear my head. I try to stay connected to friends, even if we can't hang out much. I read a lot. Libraries are my safe haven. Free Wi-Fi, quiet corners, a sense of peace I can't seem to find anywhere else. Sometimes I'll sit there for hours just to feel okay for a while. And I still dream. Not as often, and not as loudly. But I do. I dream about one day waking up and not having to check my bank account first thing. I dream about walking into a store and not doing mental math before grabbing something off the shelf. I dream about being able to help my mom, who still works too hard for too little. I dream about a life where I don't feel like I'm drowning in invisible weight. I know I'm not alone. I know there are millions of people like me, stuck in this cycle of working just to stay afloat. I try to remind myself that it's not my fault. That the system is broken, not me. But when you live like this long enough, it's hard not to internalize the failure. I want to believe things can change. I want to believe that one day, this chapter will be something I look back on with pride, not just pain. But today? Today I'll pack my lunch because I can't afford takeout. I'll say no to happy hour again. I'll wear the same worn-out shoes and keep grinding, hoping that maybe next year, or the year after, something gives. Something shifts. And I can finally start building the life I've spent so long just trying to survive for. That's the hope, anyway. I wake up before my alarm most days, heart already pounding like it knows something bad's going to happen. There's no real reason for it, it's just anxiety, coiled tight in my chest like a spring. I lie still for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling, counting how long I can stay in bed before I absolutely have to move. My shift starts at 8, but I give myself just enough time to scrape together a cup of instant coffee and wash my face. Breakfast is usually a slice of toast if I remembered to buy bread. If not, then just water. I'm 27, and I live in a studio apartment that costs more than half my paycheck. It's nothing fancy, just one big room with a tiny bathroom and a kitchen that's barely wider than my wingspan. The walls are thin enough that I know way too much about my neighbors' lives. Rent went up again last month. I cried when I got the notice. Not loud or dramatic, just this slow, quiet kind of crying you do when you're too tired to feel shocked anymore. I used to think if I worked hard enough, I could get ahead. Now I just hope I can keep from slipping further behind. I work 2 part-time jobs, one at a bookstore and another at a coffee shop. Between the two, I make just under $2,200 a month. After rent, utilities, groceries, transit, and the minimum payments on my student loans, I have maybe $40 left. That's not a typo. $40. That's my fun money, my emergency fund, my if something breaks I am screwed budget. Some months I don't even have that. People tell me to just get a better job, like there are great paying jobs lying around waiting for someone with a degree in English Lit and no connections. I graduated in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, and entered a job market that was falling apart. I applied for everything: copywriting gigs, publishing internships, content mills that wanted 5 blog posts a day for $50. The ones that wrote back said I didn't have enough experience. The rest never replied. Now I've stopped dreaming about a career. I just want stability. I want to know that if I get sick, I won't lose my apartment. That I can afford a dentist someday. That I won't have to choose between paying a bill and eating dinner. Most of my meals come from the clearance shelf at the grocery store, and I've gotten really good at pretending I like instant noodles. I stopped buying fresh fruit unless it's on sale. Avocados are a luxury I can't justify. I've memorized the schedule for markdowns at my local store and know which gas stations have the cheapest transit card recharges. These are skills I never thought I'd need. I used to dream about traveling: Japan, Spain, Iceland. I had a Pinterest board full of places I wanted to go. Now I delete the emails from travel sites because they feel like someone dangling a life I'll never get to live. I used to think I'd write a novel. Now I journal in the Notes app during my lunch breaks, trying to hold on to the part of me that still believes stories matter. Sometimes I fantasize about winning the lottery, not to be rich, just to be free. Free from the pressure of always counting pennies, from the stomach-dropping dread that comes when an unexpected expense hits. Last month my phone screen cracked. It's still broken, I can't afford to fix it. I just squint past the lines and try not to cut my fingers. Every new bill, every price increase feels like the world tightening its grip on me, like I'm being squeezed out of a life that's meant to be lived, not just survived. My friends are in the same boat. We joke about it to cope. We call it millennial poor or say, LOL, I'm so broke, while sending each other memes about depression and overdraft fees. But behind the jokes is a quiet desperation. We're all exhausted. We cancel plans because we can't afford the Uber or the cover charge. We count change to buy a single drink at happy hour. We tell ourselves it's just a phase, that things will get better, but it's been years, and most of us are still stuck. Therapy? Out of the question. Health insurance only covers a sliver, and even then, the co-pays are more than I can manage. So instead, I cope in cheap ways: long walks when I have the energy, rewatching the same comfort shows, playing music in my earbuds to drown out my thoughts. Some nights, I lie awake and wonder if I'm wasting the best years of my life just trying to make ends meet. I've had to put off everything. Relationships, because I don't have the bandwidth for dating. Kids, because how could I possibly provide for one when I can barely take care of myself? Owning a home? Don't make me laugh. I can't even afford a pet. And yet, somehow, I keep going. Maybe it's stubbornness. Maybe it's hope disguised as survival instinct. I keep showing up, keep working, keep trying to carve out small pockets of joy where I can find them. A good book. A text from someone I love. A warm drink on a cold morning. It's not enough, but it's something. I don't know what the future holds. I used to have a 5-year plan, but now I take things 1 month at a time. My dream now is simple: stability. A full-time job with benefits. Enough savings to handle a minor emergency. A weekend off with no guilt. A room that's just mine and not a closet masquerading as a studio. These things sound small, but to me, they'd feel like freedom. I wish more people understood that we're not lazy or entitled. We're just trying to survive in a world that keeps asking more than it gives. We grew up being told to chase our dreams, but no one mentioned the part where rent eats dreams alive. I'm not asking for a miracle, just a fair shot. So I wake up, I breathe, I push through the anxiety, and I try again. Every day. I wake up every morning to the sound of my phone's alarm, an obnoxious, high-pitched tone I've grown to hate. Not because I'm not a morning person, though I'm really not, but because it's the sound that reminds me of everything waiting on the other side of consciousness: unpaid bills, job stress, bank account notifications that read like red flags. I'm 27. I rent a 1-bedroom apartment just outside the city. Not because I love the location, but because it's slightly cheaper than living in the city proper. It used to feel temporary, like a stepping stone. I told myself I'd only be here for a year, maybe 2, just until I got a better paying job. That was 4 years ago. Every dollar feels like it has to do 3 jobs. My salary looks okay on paper, $48,000 a year working full-time at a marketing firm. But when you subtract rent, groceries, utilities, car insurance, health insurance, bare minimum coverage, student loans, and everything else life demands, there's barely anything left. And prices just keep climbing. Rent's gone up 8% since last year. My pay hasn't moved at all. I'm constantly calculating. Every time I walk into the grocery store, I mentally tally every item. I compare prices per ounce like it's a math competition I never signed up for. I skip the fresh produce unless it's on sale. I haven't bought new clothes in over a year. My winter coat has a broken zipper I can't afford to replace, so I layer up and hope no one notices. The emotional weight of all this is what people don't talk about enough. It's not just financial stress, it's a kind of chronic fatigue. A quiet dread that hums in the background of everything I do. I go to bed thinking about money. I wake up thinking about money. Even things that should bring me joy feel tainted. If a friend invites me to dinner, I feel a mix of guilt and anxiety. Can I say yes? Can I split the bill? Should I just make up an excuse again? Sometimes, I feel like I'm playing a game rigged against me. Like no matter how careful I am, the finish line keeps moving. I've tried side gigs, freelance writing, tutoring, selling old clothes online, but they barely make a dent. And I'm so tired. Some nights I just lie in bed scrolling through job boards, applying to positions I'm either overqualified for or vastly underqualified for. My dreams used to be so vivid. I wanted to travel. Backpack across Europe. Open my own creative agency. Maybe even buy a small house with a garden someday. I used to sketch out floor plans just for fun, little homes with light wood floors and shelves full of books. Now, my dreams feel like a luxury. Like something irresponsible people get to have. I've postponed so much. Grad school. Dating seriously. Even adopting a dog, something I've wanted for years. I can barely afford to take care of myself, let alone another living thing. And it's not just me. Most of my friends are in the same boat, college-educated, working full-time, still living paycheck to paycheck. Some moved back in with their parents. Some juggle 3 part-time jobs without benefits. We laugh about it sometimes, dark humor that masks how close to the edge we all feel. Coping looks different every day. Some mornings, I make a list of 3 small things to do just to feel like I'm moving forward: laundry, update my resume, drink water. Other days, I just let myself sit in the discomfort, let the sadness wash over me without trying to fix it. I go for walks. I listen to podcasts where other people talk about the same things I'm feeling. There's comfort in not being alone, even if we're all struggling. I don't know what the future looks like anymore. I used to picture milestones: promotion by 30, married by 35, house by 40. Now, I just hope I'll still have a place to live next year. I hope I can keep my car running. I hope one day I'll have a job that pays enough to not feel like survival. I'm not lazy. I'm not reckless with money. I'm doing everything I was told to do: work hard, budget, stay disciplined, and I'm still not getting ahead. That's the part that hurts the most. That quiet shame that whispers maybe it's just me, even when I know it isn't. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I stopped trying so hard. If I just coasted for a while. But the fear of falling even further behind keeps me going. Still, I haven't let go completely. There's this stubborn little ember in me that won't go out. Maybe it's foolish, but I still hope. Hope that something will shift. That the world will recalibrate. That I'll get a break, not a lottery win, just a chance to breathe without everything crashing down. Until then, I keep showing up. I keep trying. I keep hoping that someday, I'll look back on this chapter not as the end, but as the middle of something that eventually got better. I never thought I'd measure success by how many days I could go without checking my bank account. But here I am, 27 years old, 2 part-time jobs, a bachelor's degree that I'm still paying off, and a checking account that feels more like a countdown timer than a place to store money. I used to imagine something different for myself. I used to dream. Now, I budget like it's a sport, and every purchase feels like a negotiation with my future. I wake up every day at 6:45 a.m., not because I want to, but because if I don't catch the early bus, I'll be late for my first shift at the coffee shop. It's minimum wage, plus tips, on good days. That means I can afford groceries that aren't just pasta and canned beans. On bad days, it's just enough for bus fare and maybe a cheap frozen meal. There's no such thing as saving. Saving feels like something rich people do. I'm just trying not to overdraft. The worst part is the mental math. It never stops. Before I buy anything, coffee, a second-hand coat, even a roll of toilet paper, I calculate. Not just whether I can afford it, but what I'm giving up by saying yes. Will this mean I can't afford my portion of rent? Will I have to skip laundry this week? It's exhausting. Every day is a trade-off. Every decision feels like it matters more than it should. Sometimes, I wonder if it's just me. If I did something wrong. Maybe I picked the wrong major, English Lit. In case you're curious, people like to smirk at that. Maybe I should have learned to code. But then I talked to friends who were nurses, teachers, social workers, people who chose practical paths, and they're drowning too. Working extra shifts, living with roommates into their 30s, taking on side gigs just to scrape by. It's not just me. It's the whole system. We were all told to go to college, to chase our passions, to work hard, and now we're just trying to survive. Rent keeps going up. Groceries are more expensive every month. My student loan interest alone could probably feed a family for a week. I can't even look at the housing market without laughing, well, laughing and crying. The idea of owning a home feels like reading a fantasy novel. Something I'll never touch, no matter how many hours I work. It wasn't always like this. When I was a kid, my parents weren't rich, but they made ends meet. We had home-cooked meals, birthday parties, vacations once in a while. My dad worked one job. One. That's unthinkable now. I work too and still need help sometimes from him and my mom, which makes me feel like I've failed. They don't say that, but I know they're worried. I hear it in their voices when they ask if I'm managing okay. Managing. That's the word we all use now. Not thriving. Just managing. The constant pressure wears on you. It's like carrying a weight you can't set down, even to sleep. Some nights, I lie awake staring at the ceiling, my chest tight with anxiety about next month's bills. Will my hours be cut? Will my rent go up again? What if I get sick and can't work? There's no safety net. Just this tightrope I'm trying to walk every day. My coping mechanisms are mixed. I journal, sometimes. Try to remind myself of the little things I'm grateful for, a friend who Venmo'd me for coffee, a good tip from a customer, a day when the bus arrived on time. I listen to music on my walk home, even if my phone battery is low. I say yes to potlucks and game nights because I need to feel connected, even if I can't afford to go out to dinner. I've gotten really good at pretending everything's fine. That's what we do. We joke about being broke like it's some quirky personality trait. Broke bestie, we say. But under the jokes is a quiet kind of desperation we don't talk about. I had dreams once. Still do, somewhere. I wanted to write novels, teach, maybe travel and see parts of the world I only read about. I wanted to have a space of my own, with bookshelves, maybe a cat, and a window that lets in the morning light. Now, I just dream of stability. Of not flinching when my phone buzzes in case it's a bank notification. Of buying groceries without checking my account first. Of a month without panic attacks over money. Some dreams I've put on hold indefinitely. Grad school? Impossible without more debt. Travel? Even a weekend trip feels luxurious. A family? I don't know how people afford diapers and daycare when I can barely afford rent. I postponed so much that I worry I'll look up one day and realize I postponed my whole life. And yet, I keep going. I work, I smile at customers, I try to find moments of peace in the chaos. There's something resilient in that, I guess. Some kind of quiet defiance. I'm still here, still trying, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, something will change. That things will get better. That we'll stop blaming ourselves for a system that keeps moving the goalposts. I don't need riches. I just want enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to plan. Enough to feel like I have a future again. Until then, I keep showing up. To work. To life. To the hope that this isn't all there is. I've started measuring my life in receipts. Grocery store slips, rent confirmation emails, student loan statements, I hoard them all, as if seeing the numbers laid out might help me make sense of them, or at least prove to myself that I'm not just being dramatic. That this isn't just poor budgeting. That I'm not lazy or entitled or whatever else they say about people like me. I'm 27. I work full-time, 40, sometimes 50 hours a week, in marketing for a small startup that talks a lot about disruption and hustle but can barely afford to match my 401k. I make just enough to not qualify for any real government aid, but not nearly enough to feel like I'm actually moving forward. Rent takes almost half my paycheck. I split a one-bedroom with my partner because it's cheaper than getting 2 rooms and because we don't really have another option. There's a tiny leak in the ceiling above the shower. The landlord says he'll get around to it, but he hasn't. It's been 5 months. We used to laugh about it. Used to. I skip breakfast most days, not out of some intermittent fasting trend, but because I can't justify the $6 for bagels and coffee anymore. Instead, I keep a bag of almonds in my desk drawer, and sometimes I'll drink the office coffee if it doesn't taste too much like burnt regret. I bike to work now. Partly for the exercise, but mostly to avoid the rising cost of subway fare. Gas is out of the question. I sold my car during the pandemic to make rent 1 month. Everyday choices have become calculations. Mental equations I run constantly, like, how many hours of work is this $12 salad, or if I buy this winter coat now, what gets pushed to next month? There's no such thing as a spontaneous decision. Even saying yes to a friend's birthday dinner sets off a ripple effect, less grocery money, fewer nights with the heater on, more anxiety. It feels like the goalposts keep moving. Like I was promised one game, but someone keeps changing the rules. When I was a kid, I believed the story, work hard, go to college, get a job, be comfortable. I did all that. I checked the boxes. But comfort isn't even on the horizon. I'm not asking for luxury, just to not flinch every time my phone buzzes in case it's my bank alerting me to another overdraft. Debt hangs over me like a shadow. $46,000 in student loans. I've been making payments for 5 years and the balance hasn't moved. In fact, with interest, it's gone up. It feels like a joke, like I'm throwing buckets of water at a wildfire and pretending I'm making progress. And then there's the emotional tax. The exhaustion that never leaves. The quiet panic that hums in the background even on good days. The way I've stopped dreaming out loud, because even hope feels expensive now. I used to want to be a writer. Not for money, necessarily, just for meaning. I had this fantasy of waking up early, writing in a sunlit apartment with plants I actually have time to care for, submitting essays, getting published. But writing takes space, mental and physical, and when your brain is full of numbers and your body is tired from surviving, there's nothing left to give. Even dating has changed. My partner and I used to go out for dinner once a week, try new places, surprise each other. Now our date nights are a shared frozen pizza and a borrowed Netflix password. We love each other, but sometimes it feels like we're just clinging together in the wreckage of a system that wasn't built for people like us. I think a lot about what I've given up. Travel, mostly. Kids, maybe. buying a home feels like a punchline. I look at listings sometimes, just to torture myself. $800,000 for a 2-bedroom that needs some TLC in a neighborhood where I'd probably still have to bike to work. And yet, somehow, I keep going. I've become really good at making things last. Turning leftovers into meals. Thrifting clothes and mending them when they rip. Finding joy in stupid things like a sunny afternoon or the rare indulgence of a latte on payday. I've learned to cope by lowering the bar. Not in a defeatist way, but out of necessity. I've stopped chasing the idea of success they sold us. Now, I just want stability. A month where I don't have to move money between accounts to make rent. A week without anxiety attacks. A future where I don't have to feel ashamed every time I check my balance. Sometimes I wonder if the people who make the rules have ever actually met someone like me. I don't think they have. I think they imagine people struggling financially as lazy, or irresponsible, or just unlucky. They don't see the hours we work, the corners we cut, the dreams we bury just to survive. But I see it. In myself, in my friends, in the cashier at the corner store who works 2 jobs and still can't afford health insurance. I see it in my cousin who's working nights as a nurse and still living with our aunt because she can't afford rent. We're not failing. We're being failed. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if it will ever get better. But I keep showing up. I keep going to work. I keep dreaming small, manageable dreams. I keep writing, even if no one reads it. Because giving up feels worse than being broke. And because even if everything else is out of my control, this story, my story, is still mine to tell. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I think the hardest part is waking up with that weight already sitting on your chest. Before your eyes are even open, there's a tally running in the back of your mind: how much is left in your account, which bills are due today, whether you can afford groceries or if it's another week of rice and eggs. Again. I'm 27, and I've been living paycheck to paycheck since I was 19. I used to think it was temporary. That once I graduated, once I got a real job, things would even out. That's what they tell you, right? Work hard, get educated, be responsible, and life rewards you. But that's not how it played out. I graduated with a degree in communications and a mountain of student debt. It felt worth it at the time. I remember walking across the stage thinking, this is the first step toward stability. Now, years later, I'm juggling 2 part-time jobs, neither of them remotely close to what I studied for, and still struggling to cover rent, food, and the ever-growing list of unexpected expenses that somehow show up like clockwork. My rent went up by $150 last year. No improvements to the building, no upgrades to my unit, just an email: due to inflation and rising operational costs, you know the script. My wages didn't go up, of course. They rarely do. But everything else keeps rising like there's some invisible escalator I can't afford to ride. I've had to become a master of creative budgeting. Groceries are planned like military operations. I scan for yellow tags at the store like I'm looking for buried treasure. My phone is full of apps, cashback, discount finders, side hustle trackers. I sell clothes I no longer wear, offer freelance writing when I can find it, dog sit on weekends. But it's never enough to get ahead. It's just enough to keep me afloat. Barely. There's a kind of shame that comes with this. I don't really talk to my friends about it. Most of them are struggling, too, but we all put on the same mask. We laugh about being broke over cheap beers, pretend it's all just part of our 20s. But the truth is, it's exhausting. There's no room to breathe when every single decision is filtered through cost. Want to go out for dinner? Can't. Need new shoes? Wait until the soles are actually falling off. Therapy? Out of the question, even though I know I need it. Even though I cry sometimes in the shower, because it's the only place I feel safe enough to fall apart. The worst part is the way it shrinks your world. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, to write a novel, to live in a city where creativity buzzed through the streets. I imagined working in a nonprofit that made real change, or maybe teaching. But dreams feel like luxuries now. They require time, space, resources, things I simply don't have. Instead, my life revolves around survival. Around how to keep the lights on, how to make rent, how to avoid overdraft fees. There's no room for dreaming when your reality is so loud and urgent all the time. I've put so much on hold. Marriage? Kids? I can't even afford a cat right now, let alone daycare or diapers. My student loans are still hanging over my head like a storm cloud. I pay the minimum and try not to look at the growing interest. Sometimes I catch myself fantasizing about what it would feel like to not worry about money. To wake up and know that everything is covered, that I could fix my car without having a panic attack or go to the dentist without asking how much it'll cost before the appointment. It's such a simple dream. Not wealth. Not excess. Just enough. There's this gnawing feeling that no matter how hard I work, I'll never catch up. Like I'm on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while I'm running in broken shoes. I see headlines about the resilient economy and I want to scream. Resilient for who? Because from where I'm standing, the system feels rigged. Everything I need is going up in price, and none of it comes with a raise. And still, I keep going. You kind of have to, right? I've developed my own small rituals to cope. I walk at the park near my apartment when the anxiety gets too loud. I write in a notebook I bought from a dollar store, just to get things out of my head. I find little joys in music, in baking bread when I can afford the ingredients, in watching the light shift across my window. Some days are better than others. Some days I feel like maybe I can still carve out a life worth living, even inside these limitations. But I won't lie, there are nights when I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long I can keep doing this. Wondering what my future really looks like if things don't change. If I'll ever know what stability feels like. If I'll ever be able to breathe. I still have hope. It's fragile, but it's there. I hope one day we talk about this more openly. That people stop blaming themselves for a system that's designed to keep them on the edge. I hope we stop measuring worth by how much someone can produce or endure. I hope, maybe more than anything, that one day I can say, I made it out of that. And when someone else is drowning in the same way, I can throw them a rope. Not advice. Not judgment. Just something real to hold on to. Because I know what it's like to feel like you're sinking. And I know how powerful it can be just to hear someone say, you're not alone. I never thought I'd measure my life in overdraft fees, but here I am, 26, juggling 2 jobs, and counting the days until rent is due like it's a ticking bomb. I used to think adulthood meant freedom, your own place, late nights out with friends, making your own decisions. No one really tells you that most of those decisions will involve choosing between groceries and a medical bill, or whether it's worth driving to work if gas prices spike another 20 cents. I live in a small, overpriced studio apartment in a city that never sleeps and never stops charging. It's not much, barely enough space for my bed and a second-hand desk, but it's mine. I share the building with 8 other tenants, most of them in similar boats, recent grads, gig workers, people working twice as hard to stay in exactly the same place. Every morning, I wake up at 6:30 a.m., exhausted before the day even starts. I work part-time at a coffee shop, and I freelance as a graphic designer in the evenings. The coffee shop pays $16.50 an hour, which sounds okay until you factor in taxes, inconsistent hours, and no benefits. My design clients are hit or miss, some pay late, some never pay at all. I've learned how to chase invoices without sounding desperate, but the truth is, I usually am. The pressure is constant. It's in the way I calculate the price of everything down to the cent. It's in the gnawing guilt of turning down birthday dinners or weekend plans because I can't afford the Uber, let alone the tab. I haven't seen a dentist in 3 years. My glasses prescription is outdated. I wear shoes with worn soles and hope no one notices. I ration shampoo. I hoard discount codes. Sometimes, I just sit in the dark to save on electricity. It's not that I'm bad with money. I track every expense in a spreadsheet, clip digital coupons, buy store brands, and avoid delivery fees like they're poison. I've cut out every luxury I used to think was essential, streaming services, new clothes, even meat. But no matter how disciplined I am, my income never quite stretches far enough. Rent goes up. Groceries get more expensive. Student loans hang over me like a ghost I can't exorcise. I'm always behind, always scrambling. The worst part isn't even the struggle. It's the way it eats at your sense of possibility. I used to dream of opening a design studio, of building a space where artists could collaborate and create without selling their souls. I imagined traveling, learning new languages, seeing the world. Now I just dream of not being afraid every time I check my bank account. I cope the best I can. Some days, I write it out, pages and pages in a battered journal that no one reads but me. Other times, I call my best friend and pretend things are better than they are, just so I don't feel like a burden. I meditate when I remember to. I make playlists that remind me of better times. I let myself cry in the shower. It's the only time I feel like I can, without judgment. Sometimes I catch glimpses of the life I wanted. A good review from a client. A rare weekend when I can sleep in without guilt. A night walk under city lights that makes me feel small in a good way. Those moments are fleeting, but I hold on to them. They remind me I'm more than my financial status. That maybe, somehow, this won't be forever. But it's hard to stay hopeful. The system feels rigged, like no matter how smart, resourceful, or hardworking you are, you're always on the edge of losing everything. I see people online talking about investing, homeownership, even early retirement. And I wonder, how? I can't even save $100 without needing to dip into it the following week. It's not laziness. It's not lack of ambition. It's just math. Income doesn't match inflation. Wages stay flat while costs soar. Everything feels temporary, unstable, like I'm balancing on a tightrope with no safety net. I used to think this was just a phase. That things would settle after college, that all the late nights and unpaid internships would pay off. But now, years later, it feels less like a phase and more like a trap. I look at my parents, who bought their first house at my age, and I can't even imagine affording a down payment. Not now. Maybe not ever. Still, I'm here. Still showing up. Still hoping that something will give. That maybe someone in power will wake up and realize people like me aren't lazy, we're just drowning in a system that wasn't built for us to succeed. Maybe that sounds naive. But hope is a strange thing. It lives in the cracks between disappointments. It's what gets me out of bed when I want to give up. It's what keeps me designing, even when no one's paying. It's what makes me believe, in some quiet part of myself, that there's still a future worth fighting for. Even if that future is late. Even if it looks nothing like I thought it would. I never thought that brushing my teeth in the dark would become a habit, but here we are. It started as a way to save on the electric bill, just a little thing. One day I read somewhere that keeping the lights off for an extra few minutes each day can make a difference. I don't know if that's true, but now it feels like a ritual. Wake up, shuffle to the bathroom, brush in darkness, rinse, repeat. I'm 27. I have 2 degrees, one in psychology and the other in communication, and yet I spend my days working customer service for a tech company that laid off half my team last year and doubled our responsibilities. I'm not ungrateful. The job pays, barely. But every month, rent climbs just a little higher, groceries eat deeper into my budget, and my student loan payments loom like a second landlord. Sometimes I think about how different it all looked in high school. I used to believe that if I followed the steps, get good grades, go to college, work hard, I'd build a life where I wasn't constantly looking at the price of produce before deciding what to eat. Now, every checkout line feels like a performance of restraint. Last week I stood in front of a loaf of sourdough for 5 minutes before putting it back. $5 for bread? Not this week. I live in a studio apartment with thin walls and water stains on the ceiling. The heater rattles in the winter and the AC only works if I sit right in front of it. I tried to make it feel like home, hung a few prints, bought a second-hand rug, but it's hard to shake the feeling that it's all temporary. Not in the hopeful, something better's coming way. More like, you might not be able to afford this place next year, temporary. It's not just the money. It's the mental exhaustion of constantly doing the math in my head. Every dinner invite turns into a debate. Can I justify $20 on tacos when I still haven't filled my gas tank? Can I go to a friend's birthday party if it means saying no to laundry detergent next week? I say maybe to everything now. It gives me time to weigh the emotional cost of missing out against the financial cost of showing up. I cope, I guess. I journal. I take walks because they're free. I make coffee at home even when I'd kill for a cappuccino from the place down the street. I remind myself that I'm not alone, that millions of people are in the same boat. But that thought only helps for a minute before it turns sour, because why are so many of us drowning in a system that was supposed to reward our effort? When I talk to my parents, they try to be supportive, but there's a disconnect. They bought their first house at my age. My mom tells me to just keep applying when I vent about being passed over for a better role. My dad says I should cut back on extras, and I want to scream. What extras? I haven't been on a real vacation in 6 years. I haven't bought new clothes that weren't from a thrift store in longer. I don't eat out. I don't subscribe to anything except a shared Netflix account I split with 2 roommates from college. There's this recurring dream I used to have. I'd own a little bookstore cafe. Wooden shelves, warm lighting, maybe a cat curled up in the window. I'd spend my days talking with customers about stories, serving them coffee with cinnamon on top. I stopped having that dream around the time I turned 25. I think my brain couldn't justify the emotional cost of imagining something that now feels so far out of reach. My dreams these days are smaller. Not open a bookstore dreams. More like don't overdraft this month dreams. Find a therapist whose sliding scale actually slides. Maybe start saving for a car, slowly. I've learned to redefine success in units of survival. I tell myself that cooking dinner from scratch instead of ordering in is a win. That making it to the end of the month with $100 in checking is a small victory. That not crying when I check my bank balance is a kind of resilience. But sometimes, late at night, I lie on the floor and just feel it all pressing down. The sense that no matter how hard I work, I'm always a few steps behind. The fear that if I got sick, or lost my job, or if rent went up again, I'd fall off a ledge I didn't even know I was standing on. That my life is balanced on a cliff made of interest rates, utility bills, and the ever-growing price of being alive. Still, I keep going. Not because I'm hopeful, exactly, but because I don't know what else to do. I get up, brush my teeth in the dark, and face the day. I laugh when I can, even if it's bitter. I try to hold on to the pieces of me that money hasn't taken yet, my love for books, my friendships, the way I can still lose myself in a good song. And every now and then, when I pass a little cafe or see a sunlit bookstore window, I let myself feel the old dream again. Just for a second. Before I turn away and head home, calculating whether I can afford eggs this week. I wake up every morning to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand. The harsh buzz shakes me from the half-sleep I've been clinging to since I drifted off hours ago, trying to avoid the thought of how everything is slipping further out of my grasp. I open my eyes and stare at the cracked screen of my phone, groggy and still tangled in the blankets. My first instinct is to check the bank account. It's become a ritual now, a way to prepare myself for the day ahead. I've learned to brace for it, the sinking feeling in my chest when I see the numbers and remember, for the 100th time, how little I have left after paying rent, utilities, insurance, and the rest of the ever-growing pile of bills. The phone screen flickers and displays the grim truth $72.09. I've been here before. I've stared at this same number, hoping for a miracle, but there's nothing. No secret stash of cash hiding in some forgotten drawer or a paycheck that magically appears. No angel investor swooping in to save me. Just me. And the weight of this relentless financial pressure. I used to have dreams. Big ones. When I first graduated college, I had this vision of myself, young, ambitious, and full of possibility, walking into my first real job, excited about the future, ready to take on the world. I was going to save, invest, build, maybe even travel a little before I settled down. I was going to live life on my terms. But life has a way of reshaping your vision. I pull myself out of bed and head to the kitchen, where I microwave some leftover pasta from the night before. It's not exactly what I had in mind for breakfast, but I don't have the luxury of being picky about food. I've stopped buying groceries with the idea of creating meals for the week. Now, I buy whatever's cheap and quick, ramen, frozen burritos, whatever will stretch just enough to get me through the week. I used to care about nutrition, but it's hard to care about vitamins when you're already at the edge of a financial cliff. I sit at the kitchen table with my bowl, scrolling through social media as I eat. I know it's unhealthy to waste time on it, but it's one of the only ways to numb the constant anxiety gnawing at me. I see people posting their perfect vacations, new job promotions, pictures from coffee shops in far-off cities. And I feel this deep ache in my chest, a painful reminder that my own life has become a series of compromises. The hardest part, though, is the constant juggling. Every month feels like a game of Tetris, where I have to figure out how to fit in rent, utilities, transportation, and all the little things that pile up. My job, which barely covers the basics, is demanding more of me. There's always someone else who needs something, and every thank you feels like it's just a precursor to the next task. I could look for a better paying job, but even then, the pay wouldn't be enough to cover everything. And so, I stay put. I keep my head down, do my work, and hope for a raise that never seems to come. After breakfast, I grab my coat, hoping I don't have to take the bus today. But I can't risk driving, gas is too expensive, and my car is on its last legs. The bus, however, is unreliable and often late. I've gotten used to arriving at work with only seconds to spare, my heart racing as I scramble to make it through the door. I've had to learn to swallow my pride, to accept that this is where I am right now. I've tried to remind myself that it's temporary, that one day I'll be able to breathe easier, but some days it's hard to hold on to that hope. By the time I get to work, my stomach is already tight with stress. The place is chaotic today, everyone running around, competing for the attention of our overworked manager. I'm just another face in the crowd, trying to stay unnoticed, trying to do my job without causing any waves. I hate that feeling of being replaceable, of knowing that if I weren't here, the work would get done anyway. But even worse than the constant exhaustion is the emotional toll this has taken on me. I try to keep it together, to fake a smile when people ask how I'm doing, but I can feel the cracks showing. The sleepless nights have left me drained, emotionally numb. I've stopped talking about my dreams because it feels like a joke. I wanted to be a writer, to create something meaningful, but how can I focus on that when I can barely make it through the workday? I wanted to travel, to experience life outside the little bubble I've been trapped in, but that seems impossible now. Every day feels like I'm putting out fires. The electricity bill, the student loan payments, the credit card bill that keeps piling up. I've learned how to ignore the calls from debt collectors, how to lie to myself when I tell myself things will get better. I've started keeping track of how many days I can go without needing to spend money, 4 days, 5 days if I'm lucky. But the minute something unexpected comes up, like an emergency medical bill or a flat tire, the whole fragile structure crumbles. It's a vicious cycle. When I get home at night, I try to unwind by watching something on TV or scrolling through Instagram, but even then, it's hard to ignore the weight of it all. I'm exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally. I long for the days when life felt simple, when I didn't constantly have to fight to keep from sinking. But I know that wishing for the past is just another way of avoiding the reality of the present. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone in this, that many people are struggling in similar ways. I try to find comfort in the shared experience, but it doesn't always work. It doesn't stop the fear that creeps in when I look at my bank balance and realize that I won't have enough for the next round of bills. It doesn't stop the feeling that I'm running out of time, that if I don't do something soon, I'll be stuck in this cycle forever. So, I keep going. I try to be grateful for the small wins, the days when I can buy myself a cup of coffee, or when I find a few minutes to sit down and write a sentence or two. I hold on to the hope that someday things will get better, that I'll find a way out of this cycle, that I'll be able to breathe again. But for now, I'll keep pushing through. One day at a time. One bill at a time. And maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll find a way to reclaim the dreams I've had to put on hold. But for now, all I have is the quiet resolve that I'll keep trying. Even when it feels like everything is falling apart. Even when the future seems like a distant dream. I wake up to the sound of my alarm blaring like it's trying to drag me out of my own skin. It's 7 a.m. I've already hit snooze twice, but now there's no more time for that. I roll out of bed, stiff from sleeping on the same mattress I've had since college, cheap, lumpy, but it's all I can afford. My apartment is small, crammed into a corner of the city I can barely afford to live in. Rent's gone up again this year. My lease renewal came in last week, and I had to swallow hard when I saw the new number. $200 more a month. I don't know how that's even possible, but it is. I grab my phone and scroll through the emails from work. They want me to do something that will stretch me thinner than I already am. I'm supposed to be happy about a promotion they've dangled in front of me, but it feels like a joke. The extra hours and expectations will barely make up for the stress, let alone the fact that I'll barely be able to pay my rent if my income doesn't increase more. And it won't. It never does. I get dressed quickly, pulling on the same clothes I've worn for the last week because laundry's not a priority when you're staring at bills that just won't stop. A coffee sounds good, but I don't have the luxury of that anymore. So, I pour some water into an old thermos, grab a banana that's been sitting on the counter for 3 days, and leave. The city feels heavy this morning. The streets are crowded, even though it's early. I walk past a coffee shop where people are lined up at the counter, some of them looking so comfortable with their fancy cups of overpriced lattes. It's hard not to feel resentful. They don't have to think about what they're spending in the same way I do. But I can't waste energy on jealousy, not today. There's too much to do. I've gotten pretty good at ignoring the growing pile of unpaid bills in my inbox. I just delete them before they sink into my chest like a weight I can't carry. It's not that I don't want to face it, but it's like I'm being slowly suffocated by everything I can't afford. The rent is one thing, but then there's the student loan that I still can't seem to get a handle on. It's like that number is a ticking clock, one I can't escape. I try to push the thoughts away, but they always come back. The hardest part about all of this? The constant pressure to stay afloat. It's not just the physical exhaustion of working multiple shifts at a job that doesn't value me. It's the mental exhaustion, too. Every time I sit down to relax, there's that looming reminder, I don't have enough. It's like trying to fill a bucket that's full of holes, constantly losing water, no matter how hard I try to catch it. And the thing is, it's not just money that's slipping away, it's the things I thought I'd be doing by now. I had dreams, you know? I wanted to travel, I wanted to go to concerts, I wanted to take a weekend away and not feel like I was risking my financial stability. But now? I can't even justify buying a new shirt for work without feeling like I'm betraying my future self. I remember when I was a kid, and everyone would say, you can do anything. The world is your oyster. Now it feels like the world is a locked box, and no matter how much I scrape and claw, I can't find the key. I used to talk about starting a side project or a business, something that would be mine, something I could be proud of. But those thoughts have faded, replaced by the cold reality of how much it costs to survive. You can't build a dream when you're too busy just surviving. By the time I get to work, I feel drained. The office is the same as always, bright lights, endless emails, the hum of computers and phones. My boss gives me that smile that's more like a smirk, like he's doing me a favor by giving me this promotion. He doesn't understand that it's not the title I care about. It's the fact that I need more hours, more pay, more time to actually breathe. And then there's the anxiety that comes with all this. Some days, I wake up with a tightness in my chest, like I'm carrying a backpack full of bricks that's getting heavier by the minute. It's easy for people to say, "You'll figure it out," but it feels impossible sometimes. I know I'm not the only one in this position. Everyone I know is struggling in some way. I overhear conversations about people cutting back on meals, taking second jobs, borrowing money just to make it to the end of the month. The reality is that we're all stuck in a system that keeps growing faster than we can keep up. After work, I try to go to the gym. It's supposed to help with stress, but sometimes it feels like I'm just going through the motions. I used to love running, but now it just feels like another box to tick off. I don't even know if it's helping. I can't seem to get rid of the tightness in my chest, and there's this undercurrent of panic that doesn't go away. I sit on the subway heading home, staring out the window at the blur of lights and shadows. My phone buzzes. It's a reminder for the rent payment. Another reminder of how quickly things are slipping out of reach. I don't know how I'll make it. I've started thinking about what I can sell, what things I can cut back on, but it's never enough. I want to be able to save. I want to build something for myself, something that's mine and not just an illusion of success. When I finally get back to my apartment, I stare at the mess. It's not a bad mess, just a cluttered one, but it feels like everything I haven't been able to keep up with. The dishes pile up, the laundry piles up, my dreams pile up. I wish I could just take a day off to clear my mind, but that's not an option. There's too much to do, too many bills to pay, too many things that need to be fixed. Sometimes, I wonder what it would feel like to just walk away from all of it. I try to think about the future, but it's hard to see anything past the next month, the next paycheck. I try to picture myself in a better place, working a job I love, having the financial freedom to travel, to experience life outside of this cage I feel like I'm in. But every time I reach for that dream, it slips away, out of reach. I know I'm not the only one who feels like this. I know a lot of people in my age group feel the same. I talk to them sometimes, and we laugh about how screwed up everything is, but underneath that laughter is the truth. We're all trying to survive, trying to stay afloat in an economy that's moving too fast. And sometimes, it feels like no matter how hard we work, we're never going to catch up. But I have to keep going, right? I don't know what else to do. Every day is the same, but maybe someday, something will click. Maybe I'll find a way to make it work, to break free of the cycle. Until then, I'll keep pushing through. Because what else is there to do? I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand. The sun hadn't even fully risen yet, but I could already feel that familiar knot in my stomach, the one that comes with checking your bank account before coffee. I had gotten into the habit of waking up early to get a head start on the stress. Opening the bank app, my eyes quickly scanned the numbers. My account balance hadn't improved since last week. The same low digits stared back at me, mocking my attempts to stay afloat. I did a quick mental tally of everything I still needed to pay: rent, utilities, student loans, and, of course, the credit card payment that was growing like a monster in the back of my mind. I wasn't even close to being able to afford all of it. Some days, it feels like the weight of the world is always hanging just above me, waiting to drop. The cost of living keeps climbing, but my paycheck feels like it's standing still. I'm stuck in this exhausting cycle where every new expense pushes me further into a corner. Sometimes I wonder how people are managing to keep up. I've asked a few friends, and they just shrug. You find a way, they say. But I don't know if I have much of a way left. I used to dream of a future where I could be financially independent, where I wouldn't have to worry about how to cover a bill or decide which purchase I could live without. But now, all I can think about is surviving today. It's not that I don't work hard. I do. I have a full-time job, plus side gigs that barely make a dent. But every time I think I'm getting ahead, some new cost shows up to pull me back. I spent the last few months adjusting my expectations, trying to make peace with the fact that my future looks different than the one I once imagined. I'm 24, and instead of having a stable career path and savings for a house or even a vacation, I'm counting pennies, hoping my debit card doesn't get declined. I try not to think about the future too much because the anxiety of it is overwhelming. All I want to do is sleep through it and hope it gets better somehow. But I can't. There's too much to do. Even simple things like eating out with friends or treating myself to something nice have become luxury decisions. A cup of coffee at the cafe I used to love feels like a betrayal when I remember how much it costs. The guilt settles in every time I indulge. Could have bought groceries with that, I think to myself. I've started making my own coffee, brewing it at home, and still feeling a twinge of guilt for spending money on the coffee beans. It's not about the amount, it's about the principle. It's all about managing what little I have, balancing a fragile budget that could tip over with just one more unexpected expense. The last few months have been harder than usual. Prices have been rising everywhere. Rent in my apartment building went up again, and that hit harder than I expected. I've started searching for cheaper places to live, but nothing feels like a real option. Moving would mean sacrificing more privacy, more space, or even my mental well-being. I hate how it feels like there's always a trade-off. I can't even talk to my parents about it. They've helped me as much as they can, and I don't want to burden them with more. I know they're struggling, too. When they talk to me, it's always just keep your head up or things will get better. But they don't know what it's like to live in my shoes. They didn't grow up with tuition bills that follow you into adulthood, with the constant reminder that you're behind, that you're slipping away from any chance of upward mobility. They didn't have to deal with inflation on top of stagnant wages. I've tried to make peace with this. I try to tell myself that it's normal to be in this position, that everyone is struggling in their own way. But sometimes, the weight of it just gets too much. I'm constantly tired, physically and emotionally drained. I wake up early, work late, and still never feel like I'm doing enough. My brain is always running at full speed, trying to juggle everything. And it's all behind a mask of calm. I smile at work, laugh at jokes with friends, but inside, it feels like I'm constantly running to keep up with something I can't control. I can feel the impact on my emotional health, too. There are days when the smallest things set me off. Someone cutting me off in traffic, a comment from a coworker, or the moment when I realize my groceries cost more than I thought. I lose my patience faster now. I'm more irritable, more anxious, and I've stopped talking about how I really feel. Who would listen? Who would understand? I try to distract myself. When it gets really bad, I scroll through social media, looking at people who seem like they have it all together. It's a kind of escape, but also a reminder that I'm falling behind. I wonder how they're managing, how they've figured it out. I've started to feel resentful of the things I can't have, the vacations, the hobbies, the nice clothes. When I see someone posting a picture from a trip abroad or a fancy dinner, I can't help but feel a pang of jealousy. I know it's not healthy, but it's hard not to feel like everyone else is living a life I'll never have. The worst part, though, is feeling like I'm letting my dreams die. I wanted to travel, to explore the world, to take risks and live freely. I wanted to take time off and pursue creative projects I've been putting off for years. But how do you do that when the world demands that you stay small? How do you find the courage to be ambitious when the very system you're trapped in makes it seem impossible to escape? I feel like I've let my own hope slip through my fingers. The thing is, I'm not giving up. At least, I don't want to. There's this quiet part of me that keeps saying, just keep going. I don't know how much longer I can keep my head above water, but I keep telling myself that I can. That if I just push through, something will eventually give. But that hope is starting to feel more like a thread than a lifeline. I've been thinking a lot about the future lately, especially the kind of life I want. I don't want to be here forever. I want a day when I can breathe, when I don't have to count every dollar, when I can take a break without wondering if I can afford it. Maybe I'll get there someday. Maybe this is all just a phase. Or maybe it's just the way things are, and I'll have to learn how to make peace with it. But for now, I'll keep waking up early, checking my balance, and doing what I can to survive today. That's all I have the energy for. The numbers never stop, do they? It's like a game I didn't sign up for, but every day I have no choice but to play. I wake up, look at my phone, and check my bank account as if it'll be different today, but it's not. It never is. The same message on my screen, balance $23.47. And yet I still have a mountain of bills. Rent's due next week, the car payment's overdue, and I've been getting these calls from the electric company reminding me about the balance I can't pay. It's always the same cycle. The more I try to catch up, the further behind I get. I remember when I first left home. I was so excited, like I was finally going to be an adult. I thought I had it all figured out. A full-time job, a little apartment, and the freedom to make my own choices. But no one told me about the silent pressure that would creep in, the low hum of anxiety that pulses beneath every decision. No one warned me that the world doesn't care about my dreams, it only cares about whether I can pay rent on time. At first, it didn't feel so bad. I was making enough to get by, barely. I'd go out with friends sometimes, have the occasional dinner at a nice place, feeling like I had a handle on things. But slowly, month by month, things started to shift. It wasn't just about rent anymore. It was about groceries, about gas, about the new shoes I needed because the ones I had were falling apart. Then there were medical expenses, because of course I needed to go to the doctor, and of course, the insurance didn't cover half of it. Each time I thought I could finally breathe, the next thing would come, tugging at me like an invisible weight around my chest. I've tried cutting back. I stopped eating out altogether. I don't even buy coffee anymore, just the cheapest thing I can get from the grocery store. There's no more extra spending. I don't buy clothes unless something rips beyond repair. I skip social gatherings if they cost too much. But the bills keep growing. It doesn't matter how many corners I cut. They just get bigger. Rent has gone up, gas prices have skyrocketed, and utilities keep raising their rates. Every time I think I've found a way to make ends meet, something new comes out of nowhere. Sometimes, I just sit there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'm suffocating. I try to think of a way out, but there's nothing. I'm stuck in this cycle. If I get another job, it's just more time away from the few hours I have to myself. I already work full-time, but it's barely enough. My job doesn't give me much room to grow, and the pay increase I was promised last year has yet to materialize. They say things are hard for everyone, that we're all in this together, but it's hard to believe that when I see people around me spending money on vacations, new gadgets, or nice dinners, while I'm struggling just to keep the lights on. The hardest part is the uncertainty. There's never any stability. I never know when the next bill will hit, or if my hours will get cut, or if the price of groceries will climb again. I'm constantly juggling bills, trying to prioritize what I can and can't pay, hoping I don't end up with another late fee. It's exhausting. Mentally, physically, emotionally. It's draining. I don't think people realize how much of a toll this kind of stress takes on you. It's not just about money. It's about what it does to your soul, to your spirit. I used to feel like I had dreams, like I was building something. But now, every day feels like just trying to survive. I think back to when I was younger, when the world seemed full of possibility. I had this idea that I would finish college, find a job that I loved, and build a life for myself that felt meaningful. But all I've done so far is get by. I don't even talk about it much with my friends. I feel like I'm the only one who can't make it work. They seem fine. They have nice things, their lives seem together. I know it's not fair to compare, but I can't help it. I see people my age posting about their vacations, about their new cars, and I wonder how they're doing it. Did they get lucky? Do they have something I don't? Are they in debt too, but just hiding it better than I am? Most days, I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm just not good enough to make it in this world. I wonder if I'll ever be able to live in a place that feels truly mine. I dream of traveling, of being able to go to a coffee shop without worrying if I can afford a latte. I think about what it would be like to take a vacation, not as a luxury, but as a basic way of taking care of myself, of stepping away from this pressure for a little while. But those dreams feel so distant, so far away, like they're trapped behind an impenetrable wall. I used to tell myself that one day, things would get better. But it feels like the longer I wait, the further I get from that hope. I try to cope the best I can. I've learned to ignore the growing pit in my stomach when I check my balance, to silence the voice that whispers that I'm not enough. I keep telling myself that I'll figure it out eventually, that I'll find a way to make it work. But some days, it's hard to believe that. Some days, it feels like the weight of it all is crushing me. I try to focus on the little things, like making it through the day without falling behind even more. I take pride in small victories, like paying one bill on time or finding a way to stretch my groceries a little longer. I try to remind myself that even though I'm not where I want to be, I'm still moving forward, even if it's just an inch at a time. But it's hard to stay hopeful when the pressure keeps building. The dream of a better future feels like something that's slipping further out of reach. I used to have this idea that if I worked hard enough, everything would fall into place. But now, I wonder if that's true. Or if, maybe, it's just a story we're told to keep us going, to make us believe that the grind will pay off. So, I keep going. I keep making it through each day, doing the best I can. But some nights, I lie awake in bed, wondering if this is all life will ever be, just trying to survive, day after day, with no real way out. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is that I'm still here, still trying, even when it feels like I'm losing. And maybe, somehow, that's enough. Maybe it has to be. It's 7:45 a.m., and my alarm blares its usual obnoxious tune. The second I wake up, a low weight presses down on my chest. I can feel it even before my eyes open, the crushing reality of everything I need to do today, and how little I have to work with to get through it. The bills, the constant anxiety, the pressure to just survive. It's all I can think about, even before my feet hit the floor. I roll out of bed and quickly check my phone. I know what's coming. Notifications from the bank app, reminders for the utility bill that's due next week, and of course, a new charge from the grocery store I forgot about yesterday. I swipe the notifications away, not really caring to look at the numbers. They're all too familiar, and I've gotten really good at ignoring them. But the anxiety doesn't go away. It lingers, like a shadow. The house I live in isn't even mine. It's a small, crumbling apartment in a building that's more like a relic from the past than a place anyone should be living in. I share it with two other people, one of whom is my older brother. It's cramped. The ceilings are low, the floors are cheap laminate, and there's this constant buzzing noise from the old fridge that makes it hard to sleep. But it's all I can afford. Actually, it's more than I can afford, but it's all I have for now. I shuffle to the kitchen, the flickering light overhead making everything feel a little more depressing than it should. My coffee maker, the one thing I treat myself to every morning, hums quietly as it brews. I wish I could say it was a ritual, a moment of peace before the chaos of the day. But the truth is, I just need it to function. I don't get to be one of those people who savors their coffee, it's my lifeline. Without it, I'd probably spend the whole day in bed. I'm getting really tired of doing this, waking up with the same pressure on my chest every morning, rushing through my day, trying to balance everything while barely scraping by. The weight of money, or the lack of it, constantly pulls at me. Every choice feels like it has a price attached. Should I get groceries this week, or should I just make do with the half-empty fridge? Do I pay the electric bill now and risk overdrafting my account, or do I just hope the lights don't go out before payday? I've been thinking about this a lot lately, how I've ended up here, stuck in this cycle. It's not that I'm lazy. I work 2 jobs. I'm not a slacker. I get up every morning, do what I have to do, and grind it out. But it feels like no matter how hard I push, it's never enough. My bills keep getting bigger, and my paycheck stays exactly the same. The economy is so out of whack right now. Rent keeps going up, gas prices are through the roof, and the cost of living seems to rise faster than I can breathe. And then there's the student loan payments, the health insurance I can barely afford, the little things that add up and drain my account every month. I look at my paycheck and wonder if it's even worth it. How am I supposed to move forward when I'm stuck here? The truth is, I'm tired of pretending it doesn't affect me. It does. It affects every single thing in my life. It's not just about the money, it's the constant worry, the guilt, the shame of not being able to keep up. It's about watching everyone around me move ahead, buying homes, starting families, taking vacations, while I'm just trying to make it through the month without getting further behind. I can't even remember the last time I went on a real vacation, or did something spontaneous for myself. Everything is calculated. Every decision is about what I can afford, not what I want, or what would make me happy. I've had dreams, you know? Big ones. I wanted to travel the world, see places I'd only heard about in books or seen in movies. I wanted to write, maybe get a little more creative with my life. I wanted to feel like I had options, like I wasn't just existing but actually living. But every time I think about the future, about pursuing anything outside of surviving, the numbers in my head get louder. Debt. Bills. Rent. Emergencies. There's no room for dreaming. It's all about finding the next way to get by. Some days, it feels like I'm drowning. Other days, I feel numb. It's hard to remember what it feels like to not be anxious all the time, to not wake up already thinking about the ways I'm failing. I know it sounds dramatic, but it's the truth. The days when I feel like I can't get out from under this constant pressure are becoming more frequent, and the dreams I used to hold on to feel further and further away. I try to cope. I keep my head down and push through. I try to remind myself that things could be worse. At least I have a roof over my head. At least I have food to eat, even if it's nothing fancy. I try to find joy in small things, my brother cracking jokes to make me laugh, the quiet moments when I can steal a few minutes to breathe. But those small joys never seem to last long enough. There's always something pulling me back to reality, some reminder that things aren't okay, that I'm stuck. I have moments where I wonder if this is just how life is now, where the weight of financial pressure will always hang over me like a cloud. Will I ever get to a place where I don't feel like I'm struggling to keep up? Will I ever be able to afford the things that would make me feel normal, maybe even happy? The future doesn't look bright, and that's a hard thing to admit to myself. But the hardest part is realizing that the life I thought I'd be living, filled with possibility and excitement, feels so far out of reach now. It's easy to tell yourself that things will get better, that all the hard work will pay off eventually. But sometimes, when you're standing in the same place, looking at the same bills, and seeing the same problems, it's hard to believe that. It feels like the system is rigged, like the rules are set up in a way where you're always running to catch up, but never actually getting ahead. But even in all this, I try to hold on to something. There has to be more than this, right? Even if it's just a glimpse of something better, something different. Maybe it's not about the big dreams anymore, but about finding little pieces of peace in the chaos. Maybe it's about accepting that the journey is tough, but it's still mine to walk. I don't have all the answers. Maybe there aren't answers. But I'll keep going. I'll keep showing up, even when it feels pointless. Because there's always tomorrow. And maybe, just maybe, that will be the day I find a way out of this trap. Until then, I'm just trying to keep breathing, keep moving, and hold on to whatever small piece of hope I can. Even if it's a little frayed at the edges. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.